My name is Lyra Bennett. I'm 34, and I've spent most of my life making myself small so that everyone else could feel bigger. Mornings, I brew coffee while Maya, 6, insists her dinosaurs need breakfast first. Afternoons, I guide online yoga sessions, whispering calm into strangers' living rooms, while my own is a small storm of toys, laundry, and the faint smell of burnt toast. Evenings, I make dinner while Theo, 4, debates whether the moon is following our car because it likes our playlist. I live in a modest apartment with my boyfriend Rob and our 2 kids. Life is a careful rhythm of routines, a ledger of small victories and tiny defeats, because I've learned that being invisible makes you safe. And then there's my family, particularly my older sister, Audrey. She glows in every room like a chandelier whose light people can't help but orbit. Mom always said she was born with her own stage lights. Dad used to joke that the family was an account, and we all just make deposits. He left when I was 19, leaving me as the default account holder for all kinds of family emergencies. I nodded through everything, paying first, asking questions later. Childhood folded neatly into adulthood. Be helpful, be quiet, be the adult everyone else relied on. That Tuesday, mid-November, the kids were at the table drawing turkeys wearing capes, while I scrubbed a baking sheet that looked like it had survived battles. Maya asked if cinnamon sugar counted as a vegetable. Theo drove his toy truck through a mound of flour and sneezed so violently that his raccoon shirt jumped. I wanted the story to end there, with snowman-shaped bread rolls and flour in my hair. But then my phone buzzed. Audrey's name lit the screen, the kind of message that makes your stomach fold in on itself. Lyra, just text me your bank login or add me as an authorized user. I'll do the grocery run for Thanksgiving. Fast and easy. I laughed at first, not because it was funny, but because my brain misfired. My bank login, Audrey? Really? No, I typed. Come on, Lyra. I just want to buy everything and reimburse myself. Don't make it complicated, she replied. No, I wrote again. Silence stretched. Then the ultimatum. Give me access to your bank account, or you and the kids are out for Thanksgiving. Something inside me, old and thin, finally clicked. We're out then, I texted. Maya looked up, eyes wide. We're still making snowman rolls, right? Absolutely, I said. Theo's sneeze had already sent flour flying across the counter. That night, I wrote a list. Boundaries in black and white, 3 new rules added. Close the family emergency account. Remove mom from everything. Keep all permissions strictly in writing. By morning, the calm no I had spoken the night before became a battlefield. 53 missed calls, 17 voicemails, and a family group chat erupting with indignation. Mom called first. Lyra, honey, she said, sunny and cheery as if she were reporting the weather. I just sent $5,000 from your account for Audrey's kids' gifts. I stared at my phone. The emergency account had $3,100. The rest? Pulled from my overdraft. My mother had turned my line of credit into a gift-wrapped dagger. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I took a screenshot. I called the bank. I filed a dispute. I rewrote the rules I'd spent 34 years breaking. I would no longer provide funds, access, or credit to relatives. Violations meant 6 months of no contact. I mailed 12 copies of the letter to the usual suspects, sealing each one with quiet resolve. By that evening, after tucking Maya and Theo into bed, I went through every account, changing passwords, revoking shared access, adding extra verification. The apartment felt both like a ship in a storm and a fortress finally locked. Lyra Bennett wasn't invisible anymore. She was small, yes, but she was also untouchable. And in that quiet, flour-dusted kitchen, I whispered to myself, practicing the sentence I would need for the days to come. I can love my family and still say no. The next morning, the apartment felt unusually quiet, almost conspiratorial. I made pancakes with banana smiles for Maya and Theo, their small hands eagerly reaching for syrup before I could finish arranging them. Outside, the November sun barely pierced the city fog, and I thought about how fragile mornings can feel when family storms are brewing elsewhere. Mom's calls had already started again, relentless. Lyra, honey, open the door. This is silly. I didn't answer. I knew if I did, the momentary politeness of her tone would quickly twist into guilt, pressure, and we're family, don't be dramatic. And I wasn't going to nod this time. Audrey, of course, was next. Text after text, some sarcastic, some panicked, all demanding access or explanation. You sent letters? She demanded. Who mails letters in this century? People who've had enough of group chat performance, I typed back, calm, measured. It wasn't just about Thanksgiving anymore. It was about control, about old debts disguised as love, about a lifetime of saying yes while everyone else got comfortable with my silence. By 10 a.m., Rob had arrived, looking like he'd been drafted into battle with his muscular forearms and reassuring smile. Well? He asked, glancing at the stack of letters I had ready to drop in the mailbox. Boundaries, I said simply. He whistled. Bold move. It's overdue, I replied. The $5,000, the memo line, the doors, everything. Maya and Theo, blissfully unaware of the adult chaos, ran circles around us. Their laughter reminded me why I had to keep standing my ground. For them, I couldn't be invisible. By noon, the situation escalated further. Mom had shown up in person, perfume sharp as a warning. Lyra, honey, open up, she called from the lobby. Her eyes scanned the apartment as if it were a ledger she was auditing, counting lamps, dish racks, flour on the counter. I did what I had to do, she said eventually, holding my letter like a lifeline. You moved $5,000 without asking. Yes, I said steady. $3,000 from an account with my name, $2,000 from my credit line. Memo, Audrey's kids. I will pay it back. She blinked, momentarily recalibrating. You don't understand how hard it is for mothers, she said softly. Audrey is drowning. Her husband is traveling. 3 kids, Lyra. You have to help her. This is about control, I said, not help. Her lips thinned. Don't use words like that. Stop doing things that fit you into someone else's story. I'm not fitting in anymore, I said. I need privacy and respect. She left, storming down the hallway, perfume trailing like smoke. The quiet after her exit felt loyal, protective, like the walls themselves were keeping me safe. Audrey tried the door later, frantic, incredulous. Open? No, I said. You sent letters, she said, disbelief thick in her voice. Who mails letters like a sheriff? People who've been ignored in group chats, I replied. You owe me access. I have 3 kids. Do you understand logistics? She pressed. I have 2, I said. I understand perfectly. Then stop being selfish. She yelled something about a pen and Thanksgiving. I ended the call. That evening, I turned on Do Not Disturb, curled up on the couch with a kids' movie about a fox and a hound who decided enemies weren't worth the fight. Maya sniffled at the ending. Theo fell asleep mid-sentence, and I felt a strange sense of height, as if standing taller than I had in decades. My spine remembered itself. Lyra Bennett, the invisible one, was no more. I was still small in some ways, careful in others, but I was untouchable where it mattered. The kids, the apartment, my bank accounts, my rules. The night stretched quiet around us. The flour-dusted counters, the tiny socks folded neatly in drawers, the snowman rolls cooling on the rack. They all whispered the same truth. Control is earned, not given. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had earned it. The next morning, the city felt sharper, colder, like it was echoing my own alertness. I woke before the kids, brewed tea, and looked at my phone. 53 missed calls, 17 voicemails, a flurry of texts, some angry, some pleading. The storm wasn't over. It had just found a new shape. I ignored it all. Breakfast was for the 3 of us. Maya declared the banana pancakes were just right. Theo tested the locks again and pronounced them important. And for a few blissful minutes, the world outside our apartment ceased to matter. By mid-morning, Mom had escalated. The knock at the door was impatient, demanding, practiced. Lyra, open up. This is ridiculous. I didn't move. I could hear her shoes against the floor, the way she counted steps like an internal metronome. My heart thudded. Old patterns screamed at me, but the memo line from the $5,000 transfer burned in my mind like a flare. I would not bend this time. Then Audrey appeared in the hallway, phone in hand. Open the door, she insisted. You sent letters. People do not send letters. People who've been ignored in digital chaos do, I said, calm. You want access? No, we're out of Thanksgiving. That's the rule now. She gasped, a mixture of fury and disbelief. You're really doing this over a pen and a dinner? Do you even care about your family? I care about my family, my kids, my home, and myself, I said, and this is how I show it. By saying no to theft, by keeping our lives intact, by respecting boundaries. Audrey's face twisted, her voice rising. Mom says you're withholding, you're cruel, you're punishing the kids. I shook my head. No, I'm protecting them. I will not let them grow up thinking this is normal. The line was crossed too many times, and now it stops here. Mom's voice softened suddenly, a tactic I knew too well. Lyra, I just want to help. I'll manage your bills. I'll take care of it. You don't have to worry. I pictured the memo line again. I pictured my 3-page letter, each date, amount, and calm sentence etched in ink. I do not need help, I said firmly. I need privacy and respect. That is all. Her lips thinned. You're just like your father, she hissed, and left in a storm of perfume and self-righteousness. Audrey's attempts at persuasion fizzled after that. Calls went unanswered. Texts ignored. She tried the door a few more times before accepting that I was serious. She didn't understand yet, and she might never fully appreciate it, but that wasn't my responsibility. At noon, I finally took a breath. Rob arrived again, this time ready for the final phase, changing locks. Boxes, lamps, children's art, and tiny socks moved systematically to the new apartment. Maya insisted on a tour, labeling every room with stickers. Theo tested the doors 3 times before nodding. Important, he said, and it was. By early afternoon, the locksmith had finished. 2 neat bundles of keys rested in my hand, a physical symbol of control. I left a note at the old apartment. Not here. The knocking outside was relentless, but I ignored it. Sandwich in hand, standing in my new, secure doorway, I felt a strange mix of grief and liberation. The apartment behind me had been a good home, but it was too easy to enter for anyone who chose to disregard boundaries. Mom's and Audrey's messages continued to flood my phone, but I left them unread. The kids' laughter and the warmth of the apartment were all the proof I needed that this was right. Lyra Bennett, invisible no more, finally understood what it meant to claim her space. Not just physically, but emotionally. Boundaries were boring from the outside, but inside they felt like oxygen. By evening, the house settled into a rhythm only we could understand. Maya's stuffed animals arranged in a fort, Theo declaring the locks perfect, and me, finally able to breathe. I knew it wasn't victory, it was scaffolding, a foundation built slowly, carefully, for the life we deserved. The next morning, the storm of messages hit like a tidal wave. Group chats exploded with notifications, voicemails stacked, and missed calls blinked insistently on my phone. Mom, Audrey, Aunt Denise, even distant relatives who usually stayed quiet, they all had opinions, accusations, and demands. I ignored them. Breakfast came first. Maya spun pancakes into a smiley-faced army. Theo lined up his toy trucks in a parade. For a few minutes, our universe existed on syrup, laughter, and the satisfying click of deadbolts. But the outside world refused to respect the boundary. Mom called, polite at first, then increasingly sharp. Lyra, you moved without telling us. I moved to protect my family, I said, pouring tea with steady hands. I'm done negotiating with theft disguised as love. You're destroying family bonds, she hissed. You think letters and locks solve anything? They solve safety and clarity, I said, and hung up. Audrey texted shortly after. You humiliated me. Open the door. I typed back calmly. Letters were sent. Rules were made. Doors are locked. Respect it. She didn't understand yet. Probably never would. But I was done explaining. The kids deserved a normal day. A life where their home was safe and predictable. Not a battlefield for adult insecurities. By late morning, Rob arrived, a silent hero armed with toolbox and muscles honed for moving couches. Ready for round 2? He asked, smirking. Always, I said. And together we moved the last of the boxes, the small details that mattered, kids' drawings, books, pajamas, all arranged exactly like they had been before. The only difference was control. The old apartment was gone from our lives, and with it, the easy access others had exploited. Around noon, Mom showed up at the front of the building, knocking loudly, voice raised, demanding entry. I didn't respond. Not this time. The memo line, the overdraft, the $5,000. They were all still vivid in my mind. I wouldn't let history repeat itself. Maya tugged at my sleeve. Mom will come in, she said, worried. No, I said firmly, kneeling to her level. This is our space now. Safe. Important. Remember how Theo says the locks are important? It's like that. Theo nodded solemnly. Very important. By mid-afternoon, the house had settled. The kids were exploring, rearranging their rooms, testing every switch and lock like little inspectors. I felt a sense of pride I hadn't allowed myself in years. Lyra Bennett, reliable fixer of everyone else's chaos, had finally fixed her own life. At 4:30, I checked my phone briefly. Messages kept coming, but I didn't engage. The kids' laughter filled the apartment instead. We made turkey-shaped sandwiches, read books by the window, and for the first time, the world outside could wait. Rob watched me, quiet but approving. "You changed the rules," he said. "Yes," I said, "and I intend to keep them. This is my life, my children, my home, no exceptions." The sunset lit the apartment in a golden glow. Maya built a fort with pillows. Theo lined up his trucks on the carpet, each one facing the door. They felt safe, in control, and so did I. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible, small, or overextended. I felt grounded. That night, after the kids fell asleep, I wrote one last letter to myself. Dates, amounts, decisions, all laid out clearly. I am not a wallet. I am not a doormat. I am a mother with boundaries and love. I am someone who can say no and mean it. I placed the letter with their birth certificates, a symbol of ownership over my life. No one could take it from me. Lyra Bennett had finally learned the lesson she had been avoiding. Family is not a currency to be spent, and love does not require sacrifice of safety or dignity. The next morning, the world outside still tried to intrude, but inside our apartment, Lyra had built a fortress of calm. Frost edged the windows, and the kids burrowed under blankets like little raccoons with diplomas. "Are we going to Grandma's?" Maya asked, eyes wide. "No," I said gently. "We're having our own Thanksgiving. Pancakes shaped like turkeys, walks by the river, and 2 tiny rolls for dessert. This is our day." Theo peeked around his raccoon scarf. "Do the balloons hear us?" "Absolutely," I said, smiling. "That's how they steer." We spent the morning outside, the cold air painting our breath like cartoon clouds. Maya performed cartwheels. Theo discovered perfect sticks for magic spells, turning me into a frog 3 times. Laughter echoed across the riverbank. It was chaotic. It was loud. It was ours. And for once, I didn't feel guilty for it. Back at the apartment, the routine unfolded with precision. Deadbolts clicked. Locks were tested. Kids' rooms mirrored their old arrangement, but now with one crucial difference: security. Every detail mattered. Every measure was for them and for me. Rob popped in later, pie in hand. "Boundary enforcement?" he teased. "Yes," I said, cutting a slice. "And it's a clean one. No collateral damage." Evenings passed with small victories. The group chats slowed to a dull thrum. Missed calls became background noise, and letters I had mailed were received with grudging acknowledgement. Mom sent a small check, a tacit apology tucked inside. Audrey's text softened, but carried the same stubborn pride. It didn't matter. Lyra's boundaries were no longer negotiable. At bedtime, Maya and Theo nestled under their blankets, exhausted from their adventures. I carried them to their rooms, whispering reminders that their home was safe, their space sacred. I tucked the last blanket, kissed their foreheads, and for the first time in years, felt the full weight of quiet confidence. I returned to my kitchen, empty and peaceful. The city outside hummed like it had always done, but inside I was sovereign. I sat at the table, legal pad and pen in hand, reaffirming my rules, practicing the phrases I'd need to say tomorrow, next week, next year. I am in control of my life. My family is protected. My boundaries are sacred. The lessons were hard-earned. Years of invisibility, overextension, and unpaid debts of love had taught me how to nod and fix, how to pay first and grumble later. But no more. Lyra Bennett was no longer the background adult, the invisible fixer, the default yes. She was the mother who could say no, who could enforce rules, and who could love without sacrificing her safety or her dignity. As the night deepened, I placed my phone in a drawer, untouched. Notifications blinked like distant stars, but they no longer dictated the rhythm of my life. The kids' breathing was proof enough of the right choice. I felt the satisfaction of a long run, the soreness of muscles learning to carry strength where once there had been only compliance. Before bed, I opened the letters I had mailed, rereading the simple words that carried the weight of decades of compromise. Dates, amounts, rules, and calm assertions. No more. This is my life. My children are safe. My boundaries are firm. Lyra Bennett had finally learned the most vital lesson. Love does not require surrender, and family cannot demand more than one is willing or able to give. The ledger was closed, the doors locked, and the pancakes were cold but perfect. I glanced at the kids, asleep and peaceful, and whispered to myself, "This is the life we choose. Safe, full, and entirely ours." The city hummed on, oblivious. The calls could wait. The letters would be read. The family could argue about propriety and love. I was done negotiating the cost of my kindness. I had reclaimed my ledger, my home, and my peace. Lyra Bennett finally allowed herself to exhale.